call the meeting to order to the weekly Rotary Club of Jonesboro meeting. Four-time District Club of the Year. I think actually Brian has a banner that says we've already got it for this year, but we'll talk about that later. So we'll call the meeting to order.
We have Andrea Weston here today and her colleague from Jonesboro, April Faughn, and I'm going to introduce Andrea, and Andrea then can help us make the introductions for April. But Andrea is an adoption program manager with the state of Arkansas. But she is a native of Little Rock, Arkansas, and she attended and graduated Parkview Arts and Science Magnet School. Then she went on to graduate from Philander Smith College, and she received a Bachelor of Arts degree in social work. Her social work background began in Georgia, where she worked for the state of Georgia, specifically in the Department of Family and Children's Services and in the juvenile justice system from 2004 to 2010. She then moved back to her hometown and started working for the state of Arkansas in 2010. Since moving back, Andrea has worked for DCO, DYS, and she has spent the last 6 years working for the Division of Children and Family Services as an adoption program manager. She enjoys reading, shopping, traveling, and most of all, spending time and raising her 10-year-old son, Aiden. It is her belief that the quality of life is contingent upon the quality of relationships you have with others. She likes to focus her energy on helping others develop and maintain healthy, productive relationships. So at this time, we'd like to have Andrea and her colleague April visit with us about the adoption process in Arkansas, and we appreciate having you on, Andrea. Thank you.
Thank you. Can you all hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So again, I am Andrea. I am the statewide adoption program manager here in Arkansas. I am located in our central office, which is in Little Rock. And I'm just going to kind of go over the adoption process and what it looks like here in the state. And then I'm also going to introduce April. She's our local, in you all's area, the local adoption supervisor there in that area. So, so just to start off, as of Monday, so as of yesterday, we had approximately 4,488 children that are in our foster care system. Those children, they actually are, their parents still have the means to work their case and have the children placed back into their home. But that's just to give you all a rundown on the amount of children that are actually in our foster care system at this point in time. But as of right now, the number of children that we have that are available for adoption is 354 children. So that means that the children's, the parental rights have been terminated, and they are eligible for adoption. If you are interested in fostering or adopting, what you would do is you would visit fosterarkansas.org. And that just gives a brief synopsis on the process and how everything works, but you would fill out an inquiry form, and that's where you will get your process started. Once you fill out the inquiry form, someone will contact you from our inquiry unit that will go over the process and getting your home open, the classes that you'll have to take, your background checks and things like that. It's different time frames for different families. We normally say it's about 6 months to get your home open from beginning to end. Sometimes it may be a little bit quicker than that. Sometimes it may take a little bit longer depending on if you have to do something in addition to your home or things like that. But once your home is open, you are eligible at that point in time to inquire about children. Our children are placed on our Arkansas Heart Gallery. You can also be matched with a child through a data match. And then what happens is once your home is open, you again, like I said, you can inquire about children. In normal times without the pandemic, we have adoption matching events. You can attend those as well, where you can meet with children and everything. But during your time of getting your home open, you're going to be connected with a resource worker. And then once you're open, and if you will also be in contact with an adoption specialist, but your resource worker is going to be your main person that you need to stay in contact with if you have any questions. Also, during your process of getting your home open, they're going to ask you what your preference is. So if you want a boy or girl, the ages, and then if at any time if that changes, you will also need to contact your resource worker to let them know, I've changed my mind. I don't just want one child or two child. I'll take a sibling group or things like that. So your resource worker is going to be the drive to let us know what it is that you're looking for. And when those adoption specialists in the field are running those data matches, then that will give you a better chance for your home to show up for those children that are available for adoption as well. Our state is divided into 10 areas. Area 8 is Fulton, Izard, Sharp, Randolph, Clay, Lawrence, Greene, Craighead, and Mississippi County. Each area has a adoption supervisor, and they also have adoption specialists. So once you start your process and get matched with a child, you will be in contact also with that adoption supervisor and that adoption specialist from where the child is from their area. Sometimes, and a lot of times, the children aren't placed in the area where they're from. They may be living in another area. So you will be in contact with 2 adoption specialists. So their primary and then also their secondary. Once you have been matched with a child, and after that, you will go through what's called disclosure. And that's when the adoption specialist will go over all the information regarding the child, their medical history, their education, the history as to why they're in care, any type of psychological things that are going on with them, all of the important information about the child. If you decide to continue with the process and you still are interested in that child or that sibling group, then from there you will start your pre-placement visits. And after you do that, and I'm going to let April speak a little bit more on that process, but after you do that, then that's when you will have your placements in the home. But the pre-adoptive placement is supposed to be at least 6 months or longer as well. So that just kind of gives you a brief overview of the adoption process. And like I said, I'll let April give some more information, anything that she wants to add in regards to that. And if you all have any questions, I will be glad to answer those for you all.
So the pre-placement visits, we've kind of been a little more creative here lately with the last few months. But typically it is 2 supervised visits, supervised by the adoption specialist, and then the next visit would be an all day or several hour unsupervised visit before doing an overnight visit, and then finally a weekend visit before even, those are kind of just the minimum amount of visits that we do before placement can occur. Sometimes everything just works really well and it's just perfect, and then we do those visits and we can go into placement. However, sometimes there are different things that need to be worked through, or, maybe one member is not comfortable with placement just yet, then we can extend that, continue doing weekend visits, or it just those are kind of the minimum amount of visits that we do, but it kind of goes with the family and the child's pace. If it seems like we're moving too fast, we can step back as far as the visitation. The last few months, we've kind of been incorporating a lot of Zoom or FaceTime visits, which I think have kind of worked really well before the initial face-to-face meeting, just kind of giving kids and families a chance to get to know each other through the phone or Zoom or, some type of virtual means before they actually have a face-to-face meeting. So that's kind of what we've been doing here lately in place of those meetings, but before we can get into those visitations. And then, like Andrea said, once those placement visits have occurred and everybody's ready for placement, then we would, do the placement. And it is 6 months, but again, that's kind of a flexible, that's a minimum. If there's anything that needs to be resolved before an adoption finalization, or just maybe a little bit more time, then we can extend that out if we need to. But I mean, that's kind of how the visits work.
Okay. I appreciate that information. Is there any questions? Jill, I know you put one in the chat.
Yeah, I'll just, is there an age limit of the adoptive parent? I had read it several years ago. It was upper 50s and then there was a cutoff. What is the limit? What's the age limit on a couple wanting to adopt?
As far as the age limit, I know that you have to be 21 or older. Now, as far as the cutoff, it just depends. I don't think, and April, correct me if I'm wrong, I don't think we have anything like set in stone as far as like the cutoff. We just have to look at the situation, and there may have to be a waiver put in place, but we just have to look at the situation as far as the age of the child and the age of the adoptive parents and like their health and things like that. And then also one other thing that I forgot to mention, once the we are going forward with the adoption, you all have said, yes, we want this child or these children. And during your finalization process, here in central office also, I have 3 ladies in my unit. They assist with the subsidy process. So it just depends on the children's situation and whether or not they will qualify for a subsidy or not. But some children do qualify for a subsidy, so they do get that assistance until they turn 18. And it comes with Medicaid as well. And then also, if the child has like a unique plan that they have prior to being adopted, like if they have therapy or counseling that they're seeking and the adoption specialist and supervisor feels like they still need that in place once they're adopted, that is something that can follow them as well. So that's just to give you a little briefing on the post-adopt services that we can offer for the children as well.
Okay, there's a question in the chat where they looked at the page and the profiles of children. A lot of times it recommends a child be the only child in the home. What is the recommendation for those who may already have children?
So each child's situation is going to be unique. If they have that, that child should be the only one in the home, it may be because of their history. Most of the time it's going to be because of their history and something that may have occurred, and, that this is something that they feel like that it may be the only child placed in the home. So that's the reason for saying that. I still wouldn't say don't give it a chance to inquire about the child. If you still want to go ahead and inquire about the child, then you can, because it may also depend on their ages and the ages of the children that you already have in the home as well. But again, if that is listed that it's the best interest for the child for them to be the only one placed in the home, it's solely probably due because of their history.
Okay, there's a few more in the chat here. I don't know if you can see those, Andrea, but what are the range of kids currently available for adoption? What is the average cost of adoption?
In the state, there is no cost for adoption. If you do go through the state, there's no cost for it. And as far as the range for children, we have ranges of all ages. However, in looking at the Heart Gallery, most of our children are going to be probably over the age of 7.
And how are the children who age out before they're adopted, how are they prepared to enter the real world? Is there anything special done for those?
We do have a young lady who is over our TFC And I'm sorry, not our TFC, I'm sorry. They're over our, I can't think of the name of it right now, but we have a department that works with children. Once they are like 14 and a half, going on 15, working on a plan for them to help them with those services. If they decide to either age out at 18, they also have the opportunity to stay, and it's called TYS, Transitional Youth Services, that's the name of it. But if they decide to also, they can stay in care if they like to. So there's also services that are available for them if they decide to either transition out of care or stay in care. We do have something for them as well.
Has the number of children available to adopt increased or decreased? Have you seen a change in that in the last few years?
So we get those numbers quarterly. And so from the last quarter, I cannot remember the number exactly. I think it was about 320 something, but it did increase this last quarter.
And do you have to foster before adopting, or do you have to go through that process first?
You do not. It's solely up to you on what you want to do. In this state, we do not foster to adopt. However, we do have foster parents that are fostering kids, and the situation with their parents did not work out, and they may decide to go ahead and adopt those children. But you do not have to foster first and then adopt. It's totally up to you what you would like to do.
Okay. There's another question. Once a good match is determined, how long does the final adoption process take, and what does the legal process consist of?
Okay, so that's the part that we were speaking about with the disclosure. So once you have disclosure and they tell you everything about the child, if you decide to go ahead and move forward, then you will start with those pre-placement visits and in outside the home and in the home. Just depending on the child's situation, normally about the minimum that is required per policy is going to be 6 months. But again, it could take a little bit longer than that, just depending on the child's situation.
As Rotarians, are there other ways we could assist that doesn't necessarily include fostering or adopting? Is there a way we can help?
Yes, there are always ways of volunteering. You can find that information also on fosterarkansas.org. And then we also have a great partnership with Project Zero. They are the ones who, in the normal world, who normally host all of our matching events. And they have volunteers who go above and beyond and make things happen. And again, like I said, they are called Project Zero.
Can you find that on the website? Is there a website called Project Zero if we wanted more information on that?
Yes, it's the Project Zero spelled out .org.
Let's see. I guess, do y'all work, Marty Allen, is there any interface between your service and KIT's efforts to promote children in foster homes? Do y'all work with them on that any? Or maybe she's referring to, I know there's a special segment that KIT will do every so often about adopt a child. And so are y'all, I guess, are you coordinating with them on that, or is that a different group? Or?
Yes, we do. Our office coordinates with KIT for those children.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was going to say I might be able to answer that. It's a monthly segment that we do, and Ryan Faughn, who's our one of our meteorologists, has 2 adopted children, and so close to his heart, and wanted to take on the segment. So we feature 1 child a month, and I know we work through Andrea and April's office to coordinate that. Which child to highlight, and in hopes of finding a forever home. So yeah, something we coordinate.
And then another question in the chat, do you work with court-appointed special advocates, CASA at all?
Okay, so yes, the child has a whole team, and that team is going to include the adoption supervisor, the specialist, CASA, their court team, so they have an attorney appointed to them as well. So yes, they are involved in their process as well. Once these adoption specialists and supervisor have identified a family for the child, the court team is in that approval process as well for the child. That's
all the questions I see in the chat. Does anybody else have a question? Any question for me?
These are all excellent questions, and I just want to say how much I appreciate when I reached out to Andrea. She didn't hesitate. She said, "Let me just double check with my supervisor," but she was definitely on board with meeting with our group, and might be a first where we have this topic, or maybe it's been a while, but I was fortunate to adopt a child. At the time, he was 5.5 months old. Now he's 24. It wasn't from the state, it was from a different arrangement, but all adoptions are special no matter how your family is made. You know, families are made in different ways. And so I definitely want to look up the information on the Project Zero. And I think that could be a way that we could, like you said, because Rotarians make things happen. And so I think that we'll look up there and see. I'm glad that John posed that question, because I think that's something that we could add to as one of our activities, our projects.
No, I agree. That's
April,
a great
are you? Yeah, I'm
That's
sorry.
a great
April,
question. I did jot that down too, to do some research and look and see how maybe we can help out there.
April, now you are located in Jonesboro, or where? Oh,
Yes, I'm here in the Craighead County office in Jonesboro.
wonderful, wonderful.
I just want to say we appreciate very much what you're doing.
Thank you.
Agreed.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for your time coming to present and talk about that. We do really appreciate what you're doing and helping those children. Basically, we've got next week's program. We'll have past District Governor Nancy Lionheart as Executive Director of Adult Learning Alliance of Arkansas. She'll talk to us about Adult Learning Alliance readying Arkansas. So it should be a good program. And then I also wanted to mention, which I did not mention the upcoming events, I should have, but the District Governor visit for Mike Benage is scheduled for September the 15th. So keep that on your calendar for upcoming events. So we'll have a good turnout for his visit. Thought for the day: I hope that in this year to come, you make mistakes, because if you're making mistakes, then you're making new things, trying new things, learning, living, pushing yourself, changing your world. You're doing something. I believe we stole that from Brian's presentation last night at the district conference.
I didn't know that it would be a foreshadowing of things to come, though. So, good work.
Thanks, Brian.
Yes, that was a very good motto. It's going to happen. I'm going to mess things up, I promise. Look forward to seeing everybody next week, if not sooner. Like I said, we did meet. I will tell you, we did meet as a board yesterday and did a combination Zoom in-person meeting to see how that goes. And so hopefully here, I think probably once we get past District Governor visit, we may be looking at trying to figure out how we can make that happen for the club meetings. So anyway, maybe we'll have some people that haven't joined us in a while come in person. So anyway, I appreciate everyone. Like I said, thanks for the good turnout last week. Have a great week and see you next week.
Thank you. Thanks, Gary.